The boat is leaning hard to one side. The deck is at a slant a person would not walk down if they had any other choice, and there are 4 men walking down it anyway, because there is a steel cage the size of a small car swinging from a crane above their heads, and somebody has to grab it before it kills them. This is the Bering Sea in late October. The water under the boat is 33 degrees. The air is colder. The wind, sometimes, is faster than a car on a freeway. And every 6 or 7 minutes, another 700-pound steel pot comes up from 600 feet down, and every one of those pots is the entire reason the boat is out here in the first place. Because inside that pot, if it has been a good day, are crabs. Hundreds of them, sometimes thousands of pounds in a single haul. Multiply that by a few hundred pots, repeat it for a week with almost no sleep, and you arrive at a number that sounds invented. 200,000 pounds of crab, pulled by 5 or 6 men, in 7 days. This is not the deadliest job in the world by accident. It is the deadliest job because the math works out that way. The money is so good and the window is so narrow, and the only thing standing between a crew and a year of pay is the willingness to spend a week being thrown around a steel deck in a storm. And every season, some of them never come home. To understand why men do this, you have to understand where they go. The boats leave from a town called Dutch Harbor. It sits on an island in the Aleutian chain, about 800 miles southwest of Anchorage, in a place where the land ends and there is nothing between you and Russia except weather. Dutch Harbor has been the #1 commercial fishing port in the United States for more than 20 years straight. More seafood comes through this single port than any other in America. And the people who live there walk to the grocery store in rubber boots, because the streets are mud and the docks are right there, and almost everyone in town either fishes or works for someone who does. There used to be more than 250 crab boats working out of here. Today there are around 80. Some of them you know by name if you have ever watched a certain Discovery Channel show. The Northwestern, the Time Bandit, the Cornelia Marie. Most of them you have never heard of, and the people on them prefer it that way. They look mostly the same, 100 feet long, give or take, with a steel hull, a forest of stacked crab pots welded onto the back deck, and a captain in the wheelhouse who has been awake for longer than he can remember. The crabs they are after live on the bottom of the Bering Sea. Red king crab in October, snow crab in January. The boats stack as many as 300 pots on the back deck before they leave, and each pot is a steel-framed cage covered in nylon mesh, weighing somewhere between 400 and 800 pounds empty. With a full load of crab inside, that weight can triple. Now picture 200 of those things on a deck in a storm. That is the job. The trip starts at the fuel dock. A typical run takes about 2,000 gallons of diesel, plus fresh water for showers and cooking, plus enough food for 6 men to live on for a week or longer, plus 2 pallets of bait that each weigh a ton, frozen herring and codfish mostly. The bait will sit in chest freezers until it is time to load it into the pots. The crews are small, usually 4 to 6 men, including the captain. They tend to know each other already. Crab fishing is a job that runs in families and in friendships, partly because almost nobody who has not done it can do it, and partly because nobody wants to teach a stranger. A bad deckhand is dangerous to everyone else on the boat. The crew calls a new guy a greenhorn, and the first thing they do is bet on how long he will last. Most do not last. The steam out is the easiest part of the trip. The captain points the boat at the fishing grounds and runs for a day or two, sometimes longer. The crew sleeps. They eat real meals. They watch the weather reports come in on the radio and pretend they are not watching them. Because the storms in the Bering Sea do not announce themselves the way storms do on land, they come fast. They get worse. And when the captain decides it is time to start fishing, the weather will be whatever it is, and the work will start anyway. When the boat reaches the grounds, the pots get set in long lines called strings, 15 to 20 pots per string, each one dropped a quarter-mile apart in roughly 600 feet of water. The captain has charts. He has sonar. He has years of memory about where the crabs were last season and the season before that. He picks the spots. The deck crew baits the pots, throws them overboard one by one in a line, and marks the location with a buoy. Then the boat moves to the next string, and the next, until every pot in the stack is in the water. After that, the waiting begins. A pot has to sit on the sea floor for at least a day, sometimes two, before it is worth pulling. The crabs walk in. They cannot walk out. Then the real work starts. The crew goes back to the first string. The deckhand throws a hook over the buoy line. The line gets wound around a hydraulic block that hauls the pot up from 600 feet. 60 seconds, give or take, from the sea floor to the surface. The pot bangs against the steel hull on the way up. Everyone on deck hears it coming. A crane swings the pot onto a launcher at the rail. One man opens it. The catch slides out onto a sorting table. The other men sort. Females and undersized males go back over the side. Legal males get measured by hand, one at a time, and dropped into the live tank below deck. The pot gets rebaited, latched, and pushed back into the ocean before the next one even comes up. 6 or 7 minutes per pot. 200 pots in a stack. No breaks, not even for water. A good single pot can hold 500 pounds of crab. A great string can yield 5,000 pounds in a couple of hours. Multiply that across a week of fishing, and the boat fills up. The crew works in shifts that are not really shifts. The standard schedule is 18 hours on, 4 to 6 hours of sleep, then back on deck. If the crabs are biting, the captain pushes harder. Some shifts run 28 hours straight. Men have fallen asleep standing up, with a fishhook in one hand. The body keeps moving because the body knows that everyone else on the boat is counting on it. Sleep deprivation is not a side effect of this job. It is the working condition. It is also, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the single greatest cause of injury. A tired man on a moving deck makes one bad step. The bad step costs him a hand, a leg, or his life. So let us talk about the danger. Falling into the water in the Bering Sea gives a person roughly 10 minutes before hypothermia shuts the body down. That is the number every crab fisherman knows by heart. Because the boat, fully loaded, takes about 11 minutes to turn around and come back. You can do the math. Most deaths in this industry are drownings. The Centers for Disease Control puts the figure at roughly 87%. The rest happen on deck, and most of those involve the pots. A 700-pound steel cage swinging on a crane in a storm with 4 men trying to guide it into place. If the boat rolls hard at the wrong moment, The pot does not care that one of those men is in its path. It just keeps moving. In recent seasons alone, deckhands have been crushed against rails, knocked overboard, pinned between stacked pots, and had pots miss their heads by a few inches. Then there is the ice. In a hard storm, freezing spray builds up on every surface of the boat. The pots, the rails, the wheelhouse, the deck. A heavy coat of ice can add 40 tons to a vessel. The boat gets top-heavy. Top-heavy boats roll over. In 1983, 2 sister ships went down in the same storm. 14 men died. In 2005, the FV Big Valley sank. In 2008, the FV Katmai. In 2017, the FV Destination capsized with 6 men aboard. The Coast Guard recovered no survivors. Investigators believed ice accumulation was a contributing factor. The fatality rate for Alaskan crab fishermen is roughly 300 deaths per 100,000 workers per year. For context, commercial fishing as a whole, the most dangerous occupation in the United States, runs about 140. Crab fishing is more than twice that. Roughly 80 times the rate of an average American job. Everyone on the boat knows this. Nobody talks about it. And here is the part that is hard to make sense of from a desk on land. The men do it anyway, year after year, and not because they have no other choice. They do it because of the money. A full hold of crab is worth a fortune. A captain takes between 35 and 40% of the gross catch. The rest gets divided among the crew, after fuel, food, and other operating costs come out. A green deckhand might walk off the boat after a season with $15,000 or $20,000, sometimes less. A seasoned deckhand can pull in $75,000 to $100,000 for a couple of months of work. A captain on a top boat can clear 2 or 3 times that. One former captain on Deadliest Catch, Jake Anderson, has said he grossed more than $2 million in 11 days of fishing. That is the high end. Most crews do not see numbers like that. But the possibility is enough. 200,000 pounds in a week of fishing, at a wholesale price somewhere between $4 and $7 a pound, depending on the season and species, is a boatside haul somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million, sometimes more. The captain who pulls a number like that does not have to fish again for a long time if he does not want to. He almost always wants to. We dig into stories like this every week. If that sounds good, subscribe. There is something else worth knowing about the economics, because the math gets darker than it looks. The boats are expensive. The fuel is expensive. The pots cost about $1,000 apiece to replace, and a single bad storm can sink an entire string of them to the bottom. The insurance is brutal. The seasons are short. A captain who has a bad year cannot simply work harder next year because the quotas are set by the state, and the state has been cutting the quotas. Which brings us to the part of this story almost nobody saw coming. In the fall of 2021, government biologists ran their annual survey of the Bering Sea snow crab population. They were expecting numbers similar to the year before. What they found instead was a void. Between 2018 and 2021, roughly 10 billion snow crabs vanished from the eastern Bering Sea. That is a population larger than every human being on the planet. The lead author of the NOAA study that confirmed the loss has said in interviews that when he first saw the 2021 data, his mind was blown. For a long time, the assumption was overfishing. That turned out to be wrong. The crabs had not been caught. They had not even moved to deeper water or migrated north. They had starved to death. A marine heat wave in 2018 and 2019 had warmed the bottom waters of the Bering Sea past what the crabs were used to. Snow crabs can tolerate warmer water. What they cannot tolerate is the metabolism that comes with it. Warmer water made their bodies burn calories faster. At the same time, their habitat shrank, and the food supply could not keep up. They needed nearly twice the food. There was not nearly twice the food, so they starved. The snow crab season, which once landed more than 100 million pounds in a single year, was canceled in 2022. Canceled again in 2023. The fishery, once worth roughly $227 million a year, simply stopped existing. The town of St. Paul Island, home to the largest crab processing plant in the world, declared an emergency. Most of the islanders are Aleut. Most of the year-round economy depended on snow crab. In 2025, the snow crab quota was set at 9.3 million pounds, roughly double the year before, roughly 9% of what it used to be. The signs are pointing in a slightly better direction, but the scientists who track the collapse are still asking the question that nobody wants to answer out loud. Whether the Bering Sea is becoming a place where crabs simply cannot live anymore. So when a boat pulls back into Dutch Harbor with 200,000 pounds of crab in the hold, it is a feat. It is also, increasingly, a reminder of what used to be normal. The men come off the deck after 7 days of almost no sleep, with hands that do not fully close anymore, and bodies that ache in places they did not know could ache. They unload at the cannery. The crab goes onto refrigerated trucks, gets flown out of the Aleutians, and ends up on plates in restaurants and grocery stores across the country. Roughly 400 deckhands in the entire Bering Sea fleet hand-sort all of the snow crab eaten by 500 million people. Almost none of those 400 men get recognized when they walk down a street back in Anchorage or Seattle. They will sleep for a day or two. They will get a check that, for most of them, is the most money they will see all year. Some of them will go home. Some of them will stay in Dutch Harbor and wait for the next season. And some of them, eventually, will not come back. The job is brutal. The conditions are insane, and the money is real. And the ocean is changing in ways that even the men who have worked it their whole lives do not know how to read anymore. Whether this kind of haul, 200,000 pounds in a single week of fishing, is going to be possible in 20 years, nobody can say for sure. So here is a question. If you had been raised in a fishing town, and your father had done this job, and his father before him, and the boat had been in your family for 40 years, and the money on a good week was more than most people make in a year, would you do it? Knowing all of it, the 700-pound pots, the storms, the 10 minutes in the water, would you go? Drop your answer in the comments. The honest one, not the comfortable one.